Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of this year's Knowledge Graph Technology Showcase. I do one of these every year, link down below if you want to see all the other tools that I've reviewed throughout the years. And I do this completely free. I don't get any kickbacks or promotionals or nothing from doing this. I reach out to these vendors and ask them to walk me through a demo, and I will ask questions as we go on your behalf. And I put all of my notes at the very end, so make sure you go and check those out if you are interested in my take about what I thought was very interesting about these tools. And the tool that we are going to be talking about today is that one. All right, and with that, let's go get started.
Well, PuppyGraph, I'm the founding CEO of PuppyGraph, and what we are doing is a graph query engine on your existing data, which means if you already have a tables format like Postgres, Snowflake, Iceberg, or even Hive, and then if in our old days we need to have a graph database to leverage the graph use case, and then you need to move the data and then have another copy sync every day. But then I realized that maybe user just want a graph analytic on their existing data. They don't want another data stack to maintain.
Yeah.
This makes the adoption of graph technology and the graph analytic a little bit hard. So we want to remove the blockers and have the first, and we hope that maybe the only engine, graph engine to do the graph analytic without ETL.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to be very interested to see because when you make all those copies, it costs money. Right? And then it causes also, risk because maybe one data set changes, the other one doesn't, you got, all of that stuff you got to worry about in addition to just the headache of, doing it. So, I'm very excited to see what you are all about. So do we want to jump in? Do we want to go into the demo?
Let's jump into a demo. We have a free forever developer edition Docker on Docker Hub. So you can just Docker Hub pull and then get this running in your own device. Maybe laptop, maybe cloud machine. And then you can use the endpoint 8081 to have the web interface. We have three ways to create a schema. Existing JSON file, automatic tool, or an interactive UI. Here we take an interactive UI as an example. And we support different data source if it's tables. Here we take Postgres as an example because a lot of people start with this. You need to input your username and password of your Postgres and also the JDBC URI. Then you will have a full list of all the table you can access. Then you can add vertices, type of vertices called person, and mapping to a table called person. And then add another type.
So are those the values that are coming in from? Yeah, that's pre-record because it's hard because I'll ask questions throughout. So where are those values coming from? Is it just reading it from the Postgres database?
Yeah. Since it's a full list, like in this case, you have 7 tables in Postgres. And then each time when you click add a type of vertices or add a type of edges, you can choose which table is the data source.
Okay. And so you were doing that in the last screen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so now you've added a node already because you selected something that is an entity from your drop-down list that's coming from your database. And now you're starting to add an edge. So you're starting to create, is it a knowledge graph, more like a property graph like thing, or is it more like an RDF like graph?
More like a property graph.
Okay.
Yeah, since we are compatible with most popular graph database like Neo4j, Amazon Neptune, Atlas Graph, and we support both Cypher and Gremlin query language, and also the protocol is the same.
So but not RDF, correct?
not RDF
Okay.
yet.
Oh, I
Yeah.
heard yet. Is that part of what you would like to do?
Currently, the common practice of us is to use some RDF to Parquet file tools, and
Mhm.
then because we can directly query Parquet file.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, we just use some open source tools to convert RDF to Parquet file.
Well, Parquet is now the thing that people are very interested in since it has a whole lot to do with LLMs.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Here, for if we add a type of nodes, it's
Hmm.
pretty easy because we just need to choose which column is the primary key and which other attributes we want to include in our graph schema. And for edge, it's a little different since we need to have a from column and a to column. And after that, here is we create a type of address uh, represent a person knows person and the mapping to a table called knows.
Hmm.
Uh, this table have two columns. One is the from and another is to. And the from type and the to type we both choose person.
So
And
you're actually creating that triple X structure with that edge. You're already making the connection. You're not just making an edge that you can connect to other things later.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And here after add an edge, you already have a social network. You have person and person knows person. Physically, there are two tables, but
Hmm.
logically, you have a social graph. And here we add another type of nodes called software, and we can choose which column is the primary ID, and then also create another edge called created, represent a person created software. Because each person can create multiple software and each software can have multiple authors. So the two column, one is a person ID, another is software ID, is an M to N mapping.
Hmm.
After that, you have a graph schema and its mapping to tables. Here we will check whether the graph schema is legal and also whether the mapping verified. Like
Well, that's
uh,
good because I know oftentimes you think that that data is what it is, and then you realize your data was really messy.
yeah, it's happen a lot. Yeah. Here we can see first we can see the visualized graph schema, and this is a simple one since we only have
Hmm.
person created software, and on the bottom is the JSON file which
Hmm.
has a list. The catalogs means different data source, and
Hmm.
also a list of vertices and a list of edges. Here we have a graph already. Physically, this data is still for tables, but logically you have a graph like a person
Is
we
there a way to
want.
see which tables are supporting this visual right now?
Yeah, since when you click, you can see, for example, you can click one node, you can see per vertex ID and also what type of it is. It's called label and also different attributes. So
Okay.
it actually also get you can see the data of tables in a graph view. Some of our users request us to provide some API to modify the data like insert or deletion
Yeah.
or updating. But most common practice is that since user already have some other ways to write the data, like
Right.
appending only to their data warehouse or streaming to their data warehouse. Yeah, also like Postgres, they
Hmm.
already have a interface like a UI or some user behavior to
Hmm.
insert, delete, or update the data. Some of user talk with us, and they have some ideas in their mind for a long time because especially in the health industry or the
Hmm.
financial industry,
Hmm.
because they believe that the data itself is a graph,
Hmm.
but they have to put it into a SQL database or data warehouse
Hmm.
because they want to
Because
use.
they don't have the approval, they don't have the budget. Those are the tools that are already in and ready.
Yeah,
All right. So when you're going through this, the other thing I wanted to ask, so can you run traditional graph queries off of this information? So like find a shortest path sort of thing?
yeah, yeah. Let's see. After that, we can use different client, like Gremlin client or Cypher client. It's just the standard one. We don't make any change.
Mm-hmm.
We can just use the same proto here, like g.v.count, and have all this have six nodes in the graph, and
Mm-hmm.
also we support the OpenCipher and the bot protocol, which means it's all the existing application like UI and also other things can directly run on top of a PuppyGraph if you
Mm-hmm.
already do some development on other graph database. Now you
So,
don't, no one want to do it again, right? So you can just use your existing application.
mm-hmm.
First, we support the existing popular query language like Cypher and Gremlin, and
Mm-hmm.
also have a UI. I can share another demo that
Okay.
uh, we can click and generate the Gremlin or Cypher query based on the user behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Here is another demo which shows the dataset of a Drug Central.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's a public dataset which have a relation like drug usage,
Mm-hmm.
uh, bioactivity, action type, and different of this. And we can see that there are a lot of tables in this data set. And at the same time, the relation between these tables are complicated. So we can use the auto tool or use the active interactive UI to build a graph. And the different color represent different type of nodes. And also we have some attribute on the edges as well. Oh, this is also a advantage our user like a lot since they if they want to use graph database, a big problem is that once they loaded the data into graph database, they can no longer use SQL. Now, because we are on a query engine on top of their existing data source, they can still use SQL to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And also, when the query result is big, we can export it into a Parquet file or write back to data lake like Iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but now Postgres we haven't support the write back. It's
Okay.
yeah because usually Postgres is important in the
Yeah.
production and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah people want to feel safe and let us to be the read only
Yeah.
engine.
Yeah. And I can see why. I mean, there's a lot of tools, not exactly like this, but a lot of tools in the graph space that once you're manipulating and working with data, it is very risky to have a read and write operation because the writing, you can make a breaking change. If you don't have the proper like guardrails in place, you can do a lot of damage on accident. So I can understand why that's not as popular.
Yeah. And usually our users will use some others to prepare the data like the easiest one is DuckDB since
Mhm.
DuckDB is super easy to use.
Mhm.
And then like CSV file, they don't need to load it into PuppyGraph, but they can connect the CSV file with DuckDB and then use us to query
Mhm.
DuckDB as a data source.
So you were just playing around with a dashboard, and I can see that you could create a query to create some of those dashboards, but that icon wasn't showing up in the last demo. How do you get the dashboard to show up as an
Yeah, let
option?
me here is the demo that I want to show how we interactive with the query. Like on left side, you can type in query, and then
Mhm.
the visualization of the result will be on right side.
Oh,
But,
nice. Hmm.
but at the same time, you can click on the right side
Hmm.
and then do some behavior like you tend with some type of edges, and the query will be generated on the left side.
Hmm.
So the user don't need to write everything. When
Oh,
they do
that's
the
nice.
yeah, when they do the data exploring, they can just click and click. And once they find something interesting, on left side they can copy paste the query
Hmm.
from the future use.
Well, that's nice. You can discover something and not worry so much about how did you query to get to it. The query will then come alongside you as you discover cool things because of the visual. I like that.
Yeah, yeah, and here is how the interactive UI basically works. And we also have a dashboard created tool. You can have a canvas and as many tiles as you want, and each tiles will be corresponding to a query. And the
Hmm.
result may be text, like this is the number. And we can see how many edges and how many vertices we have in the graph. And also you can visualize the result of the query as another tile. Here,
Hmm.
let's see. Uh,
I
if
mean, it's
we,
nice that you can make what I would consider like a quick and dirty dashboard where the most popular things that people ask for are how big is the graph? How many nodes do we have? How, like there's those kinds of like generalities of statistics. So being able to just stick a query in here and make it a somewhat, you know, normal looking visual is helpful.
yeah, yeah, and also it can be auto refreshed, and then you will have a kind of a monitor of your graph,
Hmm.
and some in the value, some in graph
Hmm.
result. Also, of course, we can also have tables here, like different types of vertices, and
Hmm.
you can see each of them. What's the count of like person, what count of
Hmm.
cost.
So some of those forms that you're filling out in the dashboard. So first of all, if it looks like there are very specific types of visuals you can put into the dashboard.
Yeah.
I guess if you wanted to have something that's more customized, you would just use, Jupyter Notebook, or you would just do your own thing. Would the same be for, right now we're looking at a form. Can you update that form to have other fields that you might want, or is that set?
Yeah, since here, for example, but mostly it depends on query. Since
Hmm.
here, all the attributes is, and also let me show you this one. You can see like column name and it's mapping to its value, something like.
Hmm. So it's just the standard stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Since the main product is about the engine, so but
Hmm.
most customer who interested in graph want to
Hmm.
realize it. Since in their real product, maybe the UI is not the critical part, but
Hmm. Hmm.
when they want to show uh, their idea to their team,
Hmm. Hmm.
UI is super important. So we help
Yeah.
them build a very easy one, and they can when they're trying to start a project, they can pitch to their teammates.
Yeah, I think that that's where, I always say that visuals are helpful from a perspective of testing the logic of your underlying data or your graph and the way you're thinking about your graph. And does that graph answer the questions you need it to answer based on the queries that you're going to be running off of it? So that's number one. But number two is exactly what you're saying. Like, tell the story. What is the story? Why are you trying to get a graph to work at your organization or your department? And what is it supposed to be doing? And if you're not familiar with graph, like what is all of this? Um, I mean, I I know what we see here is the absolute most common way of representing a graph, the nodes and the edges, because that's what it is. It creates a network of things. But funny enough, and this is why I'm glad you have the table view, is anytime I talk to someone now and I start talking about a graph, if I use the node and edge view, their eyes glaze over and they're like, oh, here we go again. But if I give them a table, they get more engaged.
Yeah, yeah,
Same data, except like again, it's more familiar to
yeah.
people. And so then they get excited about it. So I just find it funny that again, the visual can change the perception of the stakeholders that you're talking to. So that's very cool. So I'm assuming the visuals can handle a lot of data because it's functioning off of Postgres and other things. So how much data can you shove into a visual without it breaking?
Oh, since The eBay guys asked us to support at least 20,000 nodes at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, and because they have a very big data center,
Mm-hmm.
they want to show all
Mm.
the
All at
uh
once. They
yeah
want to see
all
all
the
200.
yeah. So theoretically we can support much larger, but
Yep.
currently the real in production one is uh about 20,000. Yeah,
Well, and
but
it goes back into that same conversation. It's like a meme. You're a data analyst and you ask your stakeholder, how often do you need this data to be updated? And they say, I need it to be real time. And then they only check it once a week.
yeah,
Right. So in this case, somebody says, I need to see everything. And really, they don't need to see everything. So I would like to
yeah,
ask, though, because of visual, because there's a certain payload of stuff to actually show up on the interface, but also human comprehension. Like if you put too much on a screen, humans cannot really deduce it.
yeah, exactly. And we directly query on top of it, so no scalability on storage, no
Mm-hmm.
scalability problem on storage. At the same time, we are a distributed engine.
Mm-hmm.
So when your workload heavier, you can just add more machines to the
Mm-hmm.
cloud.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's for the computation layer, which PuppyGraph, there won't be scalability issue at
Mm-hmm.
yeah.